So this demonstrates a failed Christian argument. Oftentimes when deconstructionists come upon Christians like to say that without the Bible, then where do you get your morality? Without God, where can you get your morality? That morality cannot exist without having God, without having the Bible, and that's where your morality comes from. Now, although we can go into the timeline to see that prior to any writings of the Bible, prior to the biblical timeline, there were societies in place that had their own codes of law and morality. The laws of Hammurabi, for instance, the Kemetic laws and the 42 confessions of Ma'at. So there are many places where morality was in existence before this God. And as far as its reach, there were people, nations all over the world that had morality long before they had ever heard of this God, and they have absolutely zero connection with these tribes of Israel. So therefore they develop their own morality in their own time frame with their own people based on their own religions, cultures, and so on and so forth. But a more recent Pew study that occurred in 2023, in August of 2023, demonstrated that for the nones, as they call them, the nones would be categorized as your atheists, your agnostics, your unaffiliated, meaning that they believe in a God and maybe even believe in the God of the Bible, but they are not affiliated with any church or church organization whatsoever. And when asked these questions, these are the percentages of people that responded as to whether the importance of their morality when it comes to not hurting other people. So right off the bat, the first thing that we see, the highest thing, is that most people who are considered nones to gain their morality and do not desire to hurt people simply because they do not have a desire to do so. It does not take a Bible, it does not take any other forms of morality by some religion for people to naturally have a desire to not hurt people. It is more common in people to not desire to hurt people than there is to hurt people. I know you guys listen to the news all the time. I know you see all the news stories. You focus on all the negatives that's happening. But statistically, you are more likely to die of heart disease, die of cancer, die in a car wreck, die in so many other ways that does not include another person purposely trying to hurt you. So the majority of people on the planet have a natural desire to not hurt other people. When asked the question, how much does logic and reason play into it? Slightly below the 83% of their natural desire is their logic and reason to not hurt people, 82%. So that desire doesn't come from feeling like you have to believe in this God and that you're going to go to hell and all this sort of thing. But out of that, the reason why people have that desire is through logic and reason, not a God, not a religion. That is then followed up by the next one, that they have a good sense of right and wrong. When asked that question, 69% of the people, it's just my sense of right and wrong that keeps me from having to hurt someone. It still follows the pathway of the logic and the reasoning as to why this is something that they don't do. When it comes to getting in trouble, because many Christians think that we just want to go out here and just live our life however we want to. The ideas of getting in trouble is 60%. The getting in trouble part doesn't have anything to do with religion and fear of hell. The getting in trouble part has something more to do with the society by which you live in and the laws that have been enacted. And if you want to avoid the punishment of those laws, then you don't hurt people. This is where this one is down to 62%. So it kind of indicates to you where the criminal mind is, because we're looking at about 31% of the people are not concerned about whether or not they will face punishment by man and not by God. But 69% are more, or 60% are more concerned, so that's 40%, but 60% are more concerned about not facing the punishments that man has created for whatever would hurt another person, right? So as you continue down this thinking, this thought process, and it's getting smaller and I can't even read it that well, we have the next one. I had to make it a little bigger, whereas purely the 52% is based on how they were raised, just based on how they were raised. Now here's the thing about how you were raised. How you were raised does not just indicate your parentage, but that is a big part. If you was raised with parents who instilled morals in you, where those morals came from, you can argue multiple points. But how you were raised was also the culture that you was raised in, the economic culture that you was raised in, the societal cultures that you were raised in. America has such diverse cultural aspects to it. I'm here in Texas. Texas ain't Georgia, and Georgia ain't Texas. There are similarities within the culture, but there are some very distinct differences within the culture as well. So because of those differences, there's a different political culture in Texas than there is in Georgia. There's a different police culture in Texas than there is in Georgia. There's a different community culture. This culture is very heavily Spanish, and Mexican type Spanish to be more exact. So the cultural norms also determine how you were raised. Now, the next one is based on people belief in karma. That's down to 46% is based on karma. What goes around comes around. That if I do bad things are going to happen to me. Only 46% of the nuns believe in that or focus on that and think that that is a real thing. And we know that karma really isn't a real thing. How many times have you seen people get away with the most horrible, heinous things? It happens all the time, every day. People have done things politically, economically, physically, and they receive no punishment for it. So karma, yeah. I only think karma comes around if you focus on the idea and believe that it's going to come around, and then what you get in life is what you believe. And then only a small little 12% of the nuns, and like I said before, the nuns also include, the majority of the nuns include people who are unaffiliated but believe that there is a creator God. But only 12% of them do not want to hurt people because of their religious beliefs. Religious belief doesn't play a part completely in the atheist idea. But as far as the agnostics, as far as the Gnostics, as far as the unchurched, as far as the unaffiliated but still believing in God, only that religious aspect plays only a 12% part. The overwhelming majority is because they simply do not have a desire to hurt people, because logically and through their reasoning, it doesn't make sense. It's unnatural for them to do so. I honestly believe that if more people were in charge of society that was not hell-bent on greed and fairness, that the world would be a much more pleasant place, it'd be a more peaceful place, and that if people had what they needed, if everybody had food, everybody had shelter, everybody had clothing, and the disparage wasn't as great between wealth and non-wealth, that our crime would go down. Our desire to hurt people, our natural desire not to hurt people is there. We know that crime is heightened where economics are lower. So therefore, we know the reason. It has nothing to do with your religion, putting the Bible in schools, making people go to church, making laws based on the Bible is not going to decrease the crime rate. Making it economically fair for people to achieve the basics of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that is what will cure crime. So always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.